Hi, it's Parissa, your relationship therapist. So everyone's been talking about Amber and Johnny Depp's relationship, and I thought, why not focus on their relationship for this video and what we can take away from their relationship and the reasons that they ended up in this awful, horrible place, and how we can actually prevent ourselves from getting into these unhealthy relationships. So as a therapist, I find the relationship very messy and confusing. And I've only listened to parts of their interviews in the court proceedings and also listened to some of their other tapes from before. And if I had to rate them as a couple in terms of the degree of distress they're displaying from 0 to 100, they would score at least a 90, which means they're a high conflict couple. They would be considered a highly distressed couple, a couple who can be very challenging to work with and help because there's been the occurrence of physical and emotional violence. And when it gets to this point of physical violence, my feeling is that really all hope is lost for the relationship because, as you may know, we don't actually do couples therapy when there's physical violence. Unfortunately, as of right now, there's no solution for a couple who experiences violence in their relationship. The only thing we can do is to recommend each partner to attend individual counseling for themselves. Yes, sometimes having couples counseling can actually escalate the violence in a relationship, and we don't really want that to happen. So in today's video, I'm not going to focus on the violence in the relationship. Who did what, who's at fault, who's the abuser, and whatnot. That's not the focus here because we're not in court and I can't really decide on that. But I'm a therapist and I can share my knowledge with you in terms of what I see is going on in their relationship. So I want to talk about the part of the relationship that we can all relate to in our day-to-day life with a partner. The unhelpful cycles that can show up in our relationships. I mean, these people are just humans like us. If this happens to them, it can for sure happen to us too. So let's maximize our learning from just like this public display of the relationship. First, I want to focus on Johnny Depp and assess him as a partner. So if I see Johnny Depp as a client in my office, the first thing I pick up on is that it's difficult for me to understand him and what he's feeling inside. He really tends to take his time to communicate in the court. In most of the tapes, he's very silent. In the court also, he takes very long pauses in the conversation, which that kind of stood out to me. And I didn't know why. I was wondering if there was some drug use, something that's really not working at a chemical level. And I found out later that he's been, a heavy drug user. So that on the side, don't get me wrong, as a therapist, it's my job to understand someone. But I could see how he may have problems in communicating and expressing himself to a partner, and how that could be very frustrating as a partner to go through, especially when there's conflict and there's, needs to be a set of skills and communication from both parties. A good partner is someone who knows what they're feeling inside, is able to communicate it clearly without really giving you mixed signals, silent treatment, or shutting down. And again, this is just my observation based on what's available publicly. But even in hindsight, when Johnny Depp is talking about their arguments now in 2022, he still seems to lack the understanding about what would bring out these arguments and escalations between him and Amber. Yes, I get it. There are times when someone is raging and is mad and it's all about them. But in a relationship, you need to know what you're doing that's triggering your partner into a state of rage or even anger. It doesn't mean that your partner is right to commit violence or yell or rage, but at least you need to have the awareness to understand what your part is in this escalation, and that seems to be missing. Now, of course, Amber Heard, now there may be a case that Amber Heard has a personality disorder that makes her quite volatile and dysregulated. And this could be something like, severe borderline personality disorder or narcissism, or even some sadistic tendencies that makes violence okay. But we're going to talk about that later. Regardless of this, though, it sounds to me like there's more to it. It seems like Johnny Depp's way of coping with arguments and resolving them has been to withdraw, escape, and avoid. That's his way of dealing with conflict. And it sounds like sometimes this was in response to feeling unsafe and unsafe in the relationship because there was the possibility of another violent act. But in other times, it sounds like from the tapes, it's just been a way of dealing with arguments on Johnny's side. And if that's the case, that's not a healthy way to deal with things in a relationship. And unfortunately, this is a far too common tendency I see in some couples, where one partner keeps withdrawing, shutting down, avoiding, giving the silent treatment, making the other partner feel abandoned, rejected, unwanted. I mean, you're not going to be able to resolve any conflict by simply withdrawing and shutting down and pretending like nothing's happened. That's just not how good relationships work. If anything, when we shut down, this makes our partner, who may be already angry at us, get even angrier. And this comes from that feeling of shame, being abandoned, rejected. And to me, it really sounds like this was what was going on. It wasn't certainly the only thing that was going on, because if there's a personality disorder, that just makes it more complicated. But it seems to be a part of what was going on here. And we're not blaming anyone. We're just pointing out this observation. And I say this because when I was listening to the tapes, I heard Amber complaining that anytime I bring something up, you leave, you split, right? And even though this came out as more of a complaining or a criticism, she was stating a need that I'm feeling abandoned, I'm feeling rejected, I'm feeling alone. I need you to be here with me. And she wasn't getting it. And of course, that would make her even more infuriated, because every time she had to go to him to start a conversation. I mean, put yourself in her shoes, right? If your partner keeps leaving in the midst of a conflict, I mean, not a violent one, but like just any conflict, and the tendency is great for some people. Like as soon as they see a hint of criticism, they withdraw, they go into their shells. So yeah, I mean, how would you feel if your partner kept leaving you in the midst of a talk, when you were expressing something that really hurt you, that was important for you? Just picture that. I can imagine it doesn't feel good to feel dismissed like that. When our attachment needs are not met and when we feel unimportant, ashamed, worthless, that may put us in a state of rage and anger, even hate, because this person is really hurting us. And that's the common pattern I see in couples. We can't say for sure this is what's happening here, but yeah, as I said, it sounds like it may have been what's happened here. Oh my God, I feel like there's so much to talk about when it comes to the relationship and what I actually clinically see happen in couples when they're in distress. But this cycle of like one partner withdrawing, the other partner reaching, almost like escalating and yelling tends to be so common that I think it's really important to talk about it. So in my next video, I'll be talking more about this unhealthy relationship dynamic that's common, how to avoid it. And we're also going to be talking about Amber in the next video. I know she hasn't been doing a lot of talking. I'm going to go with what I have publicly from the tapes. So if you like the video, press the thumbs up, subscribe, and I can't wait to see you in part 2 of this video.